18, listening. Now, listening to discussion on specific issue. In this course, I have talked about listening skills quite number of times, and I have laid emphasis on the importance of being a good listener. Now, listening plays a key role in communicative situations, as the output of listening in all these situations is to make considered oral responses. Listening is the process of receiving and interpreting the spoken word. It involves recognizing what is said and comprehending the matter. That is, understanding the main message and the links when contribute to the whole. So the listener is concerned with sensing, message decoding or interpreting, evaluating and response. Now, listening could be superficial, appreciative, focused, evaluative and attentive. The accuracy in listening to discussion on specific issues can be achieved through focused listening, evaluating, attentive listening and emphatic listening. Now, focused listening involves listening for some specific information. The main purpose is to get some specific information. The purpose of evaluative listening is to evaluate the content of the oral message to select appropriate information. Now, all listening demands the complete attention of the listener. It facilitates proper interaction and more effective listener-speaker relationship. The listener has to concentrate and involve himself with responsibility. Now, finally, empathetic listening also helps in listening to discussion on specific issues. Now, empathetic listening is listening to the speaker attentively and analyzing his emotions, feelings, and state of mind. So you're listening at a level where you are just not only listening to what the person is saying, but also you're observing the feelings, the emotion, the state of mind, the body language, everything. You are feeling what the person is speaking. This is called empathetic listening. Now, the listener has to understand and respond to the effective signals that the speaker might make, and has to be alert to the speaker implied meaning, intention and attitude. He should also interpret non-verbal clues and the body language of the speaker. We listen to different kinds of oral messages for different purposes, but an accurate listener who listens for a specific purpose should listen attentively and lecture. Now, try to comprehend different view on the subject in order to contribute later. To achieve the above said listening technique, a good listener should know the difference between effective and ineffective listening and do away with the barriers of listening. Now, effective listening takes place when the listener is motivated to listen, pays attention to the speaker without any distraction, concentrates on the topic, uses background information to help understand the lecture, interprets and analyzes while listening, and asks questions for clarification. Now, in ineffective listening, the listener does not pay attention even to the title of the speech or main points and supporting details. Now, listener does not concentrate and does not have an idea about the main theme. Now, to be an accurate listener, one has to do away with the physical, psychological, linguistic or cultural physical barriers, which includes noise, physical discomfort, physical distractions and distance. Now, psychological barriers are negative emotions, anxiety or any emotional disturbance. Sometimes linguistic barriers like improper message decoding, miscommunication and lack of clear expression of language could be a hindrance. At times, different social norms, different values and cultural differences could be a barrier to the listener. Thus, if the listener learns to do away with the barriers to listening, masters the difference between the effective listening and ineffective listening, and follows various types of listening, he can actually listen accurately and achieve listening to discussion on specific issues. Now, that's why I have already insisted and emphasized on the importance of listening. If you want to do good in life, if you want to achieve success in life, be a good listener. Let people speak, understand the emotions, get the feeling out of the words which the person is speaking, and this is how you can grow as an organization, in an organization and as a person. Now, why do you feel listening is so important? Now, many a times we don't give importance to listening. We don't let the other person speak and we start on our own. Now, this is where miscommunication starts to happen. Maybe what you want to say, while interrupting the other person might also want to say the same thing, but you have not let that person speak. Now, this is not only a bad habit, but also it is negative in terms of not allowing the other person to express his or her feelings. And that is why it is essential and important to let the other person speak. Now, listening is a very important and essential skill that all students must develop. It has been established through research findings that lack of effective listening tends to impede one's career advancement in various forms. So, if you are not a good listener, you may not grow in your career as a person. Complete comprehension of any oral message, speech, lecture is more challenging than reading. While reading, you happen to miss a few lines, you can reread and understand the link. But when you are listening to an important lecture, but when you are listening to an important lecture or a meeting, you cannot always ask the speaker to repeat, especially while you are in the edge of big gathering or in a closed chamber meeting with the head of the company. Now here comes the art of developing effective listening and the habit of note taking. You cannot remember everything you have been listening. So while listening, if you take notes, it can be very productive on later. The process of listening comprises of 4 stages. First is perception. Second is interpretation. Third is evaluation. And the fourth is action. So perception is when the listener observes and focuses on the message. Sensing. Second is interpretation. The listener decodes or interprets the message. Okay. Evaluation. The listener judges the contents of the message, which is valuation in a way. And action is the listener responds to it. That is response. Now, listening is a complex process which involves perceiving and interpreting the sound correctly, as well as understanding the implied or explicit meaning of the message. It includes skills like scanning, prediction, speech decoding, comprehension, and oral discourse analysis. Scanning is the ability to locate specific information in a conversation, in a speech, presentation, or argument where prediction is guessing information. Now, what are some of the effective listening strategies? Now, most students who do not have systematic approach to listening face difficulties in understanding a lecture, a seminar, or a discussion. They suffer from lack of concentration, boredom, and poor comprehension. So, what are the 10 rules of good listening? First, stop talking. Do not talk while you are listening. One cannot be a speaker and a listener at the same time. Stop thinking. It is not enough if you can stop talking. You cannot listen effectively when you are involved in thinking. Remove distraction. You should avoid all distraction. Concentrate on listening alone. Do not let your mind wander. Put your speaker at ease. Do not prejudge. Give the speaker a chance to complete. Do not be angry. Control your anger if you are irritated with the speaker's ideas. Emphasize with the speaker. Be patient. Take notes. Now, what are some of the techniques of taking notes? Taking notes while listening to lectures and talks is an academic activity. There are 4 steps: listening, filtering, paraphrasing, and noting. Now, let's talk about listening. Now, follow the rules of good listening and apply active listening techniques for better comprehension. Carefully listen to the verbal message in order to identify its purpose and scope. Identify different modes of style, for example, reading style, conversational style, informal, rhetorical, so on. Deduce meaning of words and phrases from their context and infer relationship. Recognize key terms related to the subject. Recognize functions of stress and intonation. Recognize function of non-verbal cues as makers of emphasis and attitude. Filtering. Do not try to write everything. Filter the information received. Concentrate on the verbal signposts to recognize the organization and main points of the speech. Identify the relationship among the units within the speech. Look out for key words and phrases. Identify the role of discourse markers. And identify the salient points. Paraphrasing. After identifying the core information, rephrase suitably. Use appropriate words and phrases to express the central idea, main points, and supporting details. Do not use complete sentences anywhere. Use words, phrases, and clauses. So if I have to talk about Note after restructuring and rephrasing the core information, jot them down. Use appropriate reduction techniques such as abbreviations and symbols to save time. Use numerals, numbers, and decimalization and so on. Use note cards and notebook. So note taking, jot down the points, use abbreviations, use subordinating techniques, etc. I hope this video would be very informative and you must have learned the art of good listening and note taking. Thank you. Listening is a very important skill, as important as speaking English. And to take notes is also a very relevant and a useful skill which will help you in many ways once you grow up in your life. Now, students who do not have a systematic approach to listening face difficulties in classroom, lecture halls, and in every activity where listening is important. And that is why listening is very important. Now, listening has 3 levels. Level 1 indicates full concentration, understanding and comprehending whatever has been said. Being emphatic, he listens to the speaker intently. This is the best level. So if I say level 1 of listening, this means you are understanding, comprehending everything which is being said. The most attentive listener comes in level 1. Level 2, as it is the second level, the attention span is partial. It overlooks non-verbal cues and lacks complete attention. Distracted in between and does not have full attention. This is a milder version of level 1. So level 2 is partial attention, not complete attention. And level 3 is lowest level. The listener has too many distractions, the way we have. Television is also there, mobile is also there, family members are also talking, still we are reading. So we fall in level 3 most of the times. Too many distraction, is impatient, gets irritated, loses temper and has no concentration. These factors cause stress and listening does not take place. So because of these many distractions, you cause stress and therefore the listening will not take place. If so many things are already happening around you, how will you concentrate and how will you listen to everything which is being said? That is not possible at all. That is why to have effective listening skills, you need to focus. You need to have an open and a relaxed mind. So what are the barriers to listening? Now, there are various barriers or various factors that impede the process of effective learning. Impede means stop, restrict. Now, due to variation in language and culture, the absence of common language between the speaker and the listener leads to disinterest and boredom. So if I am a Tamilian and you belong to Hindi belt, you will not understand what I am saying. So obviously you will be disinterested and bored after some times. Also, sometimes cultural barriers can also impede listening. So language and cultural barriers are very, very important barriers. Noisy transmittance. Transmittance means transfer of voice. So if the atmosphere is not conducive and very noisy, listening does not take place. The PA system may be bad and effective. Okay. Complex interpersonal relationship. Now, lack of confidence in speaker or inferiority superiority complex can affect the interpretation and evaluation. So you should neither have inferiority complex, superiority complex, and confidence. It should not be low. Inferiority means you are feeling less than the others. Superiority means you feel superior than the others. So these two feelings should never come in your life. Plus, you should always be confident. Only then you will be able to have good interpretation and evaluation of what you are reading and studying. Now, misread and non-verbal cues. Now, the listener tends to misread or overread the speaker's body language. Regional accent, queer looks, unusual mannerism, and bad taste in dressing can distract the listener. Now, these are the factors which are also barriers. What are they? Regional accent, very odd look, red pant, green shirt. Unusual mannerism, you're scratching your head or putting your shirt inside your trouser every time. This can distract. So, different levels of perception and premature evaluation can also impede listening. So, your perception, how you are looking, how you are talking, and based on that perception, your evaluation can also impede listening. It's a very important point. Now, what are the rules of good listening? First, stop talking. That's why in most of the classes, your teachers would be saying, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, so that you can listen to what the teacher is saying. Do not talk while listening. Concentrate on speaker's word and respond. Second, stop thinking. If you're already thinking something, how can you listen to what is being said? Do not allow your mind to wander. It is not enough if you stop talking. Stop thinking about anything other than the speech. Remove all distractions. Be patient. Do not be irritated at the speaker's mannerism. Do not prejudge the speaker. Empathize with the speaker. Most of the times we feel that, oh, the speaker does not know anything, and you go in a different zone altogether. This should never happen. Okay. Thus, the listener has to consciously learn the art of listening. So, listening is an art which you have to learn. If you know the barriers of listening, if you know what are the things you should not do while listening, you are learning the art of listening, and only then you will get better. Only effective listening can guide you to note taking. Unless you concentrate on the listening wholeheartedly, you cannot do justice to note taking. Now, always carry a pen and a notepad when you attend a lecture. Note down the important points. Note taking is the process of summarizing information from spoken material. When you take notes, write on the top the name of the speaker, the topic, and the date. This is important, and this is the most essential skill for taking note. So, note taking is basically the process of summarizing information, what has been said. On the top of the page, you can write the name of the speaker, the topic, and the date, so that you remember what was taught on this date by whom. Now, note taking study skills. Don't write down everything. Concentrate on picking out the relevant points only. Write notes and points from where separate subheadings. Leave plenty of space in between so that you can add connected points later. Jot down any reference given in the class. Underline key points, key phrases. Use highlighters, markers. Develop your own abbreviation and symbols. Comment can be added in the margin. Use visuals like tables, figures, tree diagrams, flowcharts, etc. Use titles, subtitles, bullet points. Use short forms of discourse makers and signal words. Avoid lengthy prose. Produce a summary list table at the end. Now, what are listening for details? The purpose of activity is to highlight the need to listen for details in specific situation. For example, you receive an urgent message to be conveyed to your boss. Unless you have listened effectively with thorough concentration, you will not be able to communicate in the same spirit as it was conveyed to you. Okay? This is an essential skill in many work and social situations. Taking down telephone message is also listening for details, listening in the lab to the instructor, listening to safety warnings, listening to announcement in an airport or a railway station, instructions given before a listening skill test, quiz, viva, boss instructions. All these involve listening for details. Listening skill is the most important one among the communication skill. When you fail to listen to details, the consequences could be fatal. It would lead to miscommunication, and you know how it can affect. So in order to avoid confusion and mishappiness, listening for details is very essential. So I hope you got these points very easily, you understood. Now, some of the ways to improve your listening for details would be to listen in the class and take notes. Okay. Listen to the recorded message and jot down points. This you can practice from YouTube. Play the recordings and try to listen in a group. After listening without jotting down points, discuss how easy or hard it was for you to listen. What helped you? What made it difficult? What were the salient features and what was not important, and how useful the experience was? Learners can also work in pairs. One person can use headphones and listen to the other recorded messages and then passes the message to the partner, then may ask for clarification or repetition. Now, this is how you can improve your listening skills, which is such an important skill when it comes to corporate world or getting good marks in college and school. And I'm sure you all will be already aware of this important skill. Now, two teachers are supposed to teach the part of speech, basic grammar about noun, verb, adverb, adjective, preposition, conjunction. The first one starts explaining about what is a noun, verb, and so on. The second one writes a small story on the board and makes the children read the story. Once she has arrested the interest of the audience, gradually through the story, she introduces noun, verb, family to the students. The second teacher is a better teacher as her approach is different and she is creative. Now, what do you mean by creativity? Creativity means to do something different, to bring the idea to the people in a very different manner, not typically like the way we read in books. You are trying to make the students understand a concept of noun, pronoun, not by simply reading the text in the book, but by telling a story. Now, once you tell the story, children already like hearing stories. They are engraved, they are attentive, they are enjoying. And after you have told them the entire story, you tell them that Ram is a noun. Allahabad, the city where he lives, is also a noun. Walking fast is a verb. Now imagine the level of understanding which the children will have. But for this, you need to have a creative mind. You need to have creative ideas. Creativity is such an important and essential element of your success. The more creative you are, the better you will achieve heights in your career. And how to develop creativity is something which is entirely a different topic altogether. If you want me to talk about creativity and problem solving, you can let me know in the description box below. I will create an entire series on creativity. Now, creativity is not something that is confined to a gifted few. It is only in the mind. One has to sit down consciously and learn to think differently. Try to look for new avenues, new methods, the urge to be somebody different. What one makes continuous effort to think differently, then it becomes creative. Now, creative is not something which will come on its own. No, creativity is something which you develop on yourself. When you think a little bit different from others, when you think to do the simple of the things in a much better way. Now, there are a few steps to be creative. The first step is preparation stage. If you want to create a better atmosphere in your college or workplace, do not directly talk about the subject. Start discussing about certain institutions you know without disclosing the names. Talk about the best and the bad, gradually impresses upon them to come out with their own opinions how to change their place for the better. In the incubation stage, subconsciously your mind is always occupied with new thoughts which you want to execute or introduce into your place. One part of your mind should always work upon the change which would change the company or college into an ideal place. The next stage is brightening stage, where you try to implement all the bright ideas you have read and heard from people. Make sure that the wonderful idea is well connected to the message. The final stage is verification stage, where you check the validity of your ideas. Now, how you can do it? Let me give you one very quick example. You can introduce your topic with a bang, make it very impressive, use colorful and star-studded audio visuals, define your topic, give a spellbound introduction, generate as many solutions as possible for all the questions asked. Brainstorm ideas with teammates, listen to everyone patiently. Try to take a decision which everybody would approve of. Reading books and discussing them can help one to trigger off the imagination of creative cells. Generally, meet over a cup of tea and discuss new ideas. Creativity is an integral part of everyone, and it is for you to tap its potential and bring it out. Discussing various topics helps one to think and grow their buds of creativity. Conscious effort to nurture it would lead to creative ideas and discussions. So I hope this video would be very informative and you must have learned a lot from this video. Thank you.